When you target people at their most vulnerable, they will show you the most resilient. I think for us, forgiveness was really vengeance.
Tragedy at the temple. A lone gunman opens fire on a crowd of worshipers in Oak Creek. 7 people are dead. At least 3 others are wounded.
On August 5th, 2012, my father and 5 others were murdered by a white supremacist. My mom would survive.
I was devastated to see the news of the shooting happening, and right away I kind of had a feeling that I had something to do with it. And I lay awake that night wondering if it was somebody I knew, like somebody that I had recruited. Because in many ways I set the stage for this man to come into being.
I got in my car and drove home, and I remember rolling up all the windows and really just screaming at the top of my lungs. Why people do things like this? Why do people do things like this? And you realize that this is more than just 6 people dead. This is a father that never comes home. This is a mother that's going to go to sleep for the first time in 20-some years by herself. I think over the next 2 months, we were just really trying to figure out the whys. And the shooter was dead, so I couldn't ask the shooter. So the person that I thought to reach out to was Arnold.
The shooter's name was revealed, and I could kind of put some dots together and establish that I didn't know him personally, but I still felt like a real urgency to help respond and to reach out and help anybody heal who I'd be able to, because in many ways I set the stage. He was a white power skinhead, part of the gang that I had helped to start. So by the time I'm 16, I'm this angry, violent alcoholic who really likes to make people angry, and nothing makes people angry like a swastika. The white supremacist ideology that I bought into as a teenager was really rooted in the idea that white people were different than everybody else, superior to everybody else, but at the same time threatened by the presence of everyone else. But I had built such an identity in that group that, and like a status, that it was hard to leave. Probably the most powerful indicator of how wrong I was when people who I claimed to hate treated me with kindness. There was people like a Jewish boss, a lesbian supervisor, black and Latino coworkers who refused to capitulate to my hostility and hate me back, which was exactly what I was trying to provoke. And every time that happened, it just blew all of my nonsense out of the water, and it made it more and more difficult to maintain the level of hatred to hurt people. And I found myself a single parent to our 18-month-old daughter. By that time, I had lost count of how many friends had been incarcerated, and I was like, now I gotta leave, or death or prison's gonna take me from my daughter. I was honored to have the opportunity to help. At the same time, I was kind of intimidated. Like, I felt like nothing I could do would be anywhere near enough.
As we started to correspond, there was a part of my spirit that was being lifted. And there was family members who were concerned about me meeting Arno, and they thought that something really was going on with me as far as like PTSD or something had set in, where I was kind of delusional that I would go meet a former white supremacist.
My choice of restaurants put you at ease a little bit.
It did. I asked Arno, I said, what restaurant do you want to meet at? He tells me that let's meet out at a Thai restaurant. And I was kind of relieved, because I was thinking to myself, you know, white people can barely handle spicy food. I don't think a white supremacist could handle spicy food. So I thought that he must have changed.
I remember we talked a lot about our dads and our daughters.
There was just a lot of empathy sharing, of just understanding through each other's difficulties of life.
The whole time we were talking, the plain as day theme was that we as human beings have far more in common than different. And when we can like connect on those commonalities and use it as a foundation to work from, that our differences become things to celebrate rather than things to fear.
And I did get to the point where I asked them, you know, why people like this do what they do? And the simple answer is, hurt people hurt people. But more importantly, we decided at that moment what we were going to do about it. And what we were going to do about it was help heal. Two of the biggest obstacles that face us right now is habituation and identity-motivated reasoning. Habituation being that we get used to the soup that we simmer in, to the point that we think one mass shooting per day in the United States is a normal thing. Identity-motivated reasoning goes back to just, you know, when Arnold was a white supremacist, and even now as the recruitment is happening, we're not all that objective. We reason according to what agrees with what we already think. And we further and further keep getting siloed.
People get involved in violent extremist groups because they're looking for identity, they're looking for purpose, and they're looking for belonging. And those are human needs that we all have, and fortunately most people find healthy answers to those needs. But for people who don't, they are ripe for the picking. So Serve to Unite is a very healthy sense of identity. It's a healthy sense of purpose. My relationship with forgiveness is very much one of self-forgiveness. I'm the perpetrator. I'm the one who's done horrible things. And it's a challenge to reconcile the harm that I've done. But Pardeep has taught me that if I'm really going to atone for the harm that I've done, and if I'm going to make a positive difference in the world, I have to be able to help other people heal. I feel I have to do that. It's the least I can do to honor the people who, some people probably still suffer from the damage that I did.
Places of prayer are being targeted because I think people believe that somehow, some way, you can target people at their most vulnerable. But when you target people at their most vulnerable, they will show you the most resilient. I think for us, forgiveness was really vengeance. We're not going to let you disrupt our life, and we're not going to cower. And we're going to show you exactly who we are, which is love, which is compassion, which is Sikhs.
For the rest of us, it's our duty to reach out to these populations that have been attacked and just say, hey, we're here to help.
As we are in 2019, we do have media of mass destruction, and we have weapons of mass destruction.
It becomes all the more important for us to be mindful of what we're putting into this system. So just as earlier when I talked about back in the day, me and my buddies are radiating hate into the world and the world gives it back to us, we need everyone with a social media account to be radiating love into the world and radiating connection rather than siloing themselves, surrounding themselves only by people who agree with them. And as you're doing it, do it with the urgency that our society depends on it, because I really think it does. When human beings aren't terrified of each other, there is no problem that we can't solve.
There's something that's keeping us together and working together, and it's been a phenomenal journey, and I love spending it with this man.